Applicants plus any questions by the commissioners. Then once we move to public comment, I will call on those who were present in the council chambers first, followed by those who are joining us online. So public comments are expected to be no longer than 2 minutes when speaking as an individual, or up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or a larger group. In all instances, please limit repetitive comments. Also, those of you joining the meeting virtually, please help us keep the meeting on track by being ready to speak when promoted with your camera on and unmuted. So as we get started with the meeting, I ask staff to provide some additional ground rules to ensure that we have minimal disruption and maximum clarity. Joe, can you remind us of those rules, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As the chair has mentioned, this is a hybrid meeting, so we have people joining us in the chamber as well as online on Zoom. If you're on Zoom and you are an applicant, please raise your hand in Zoom as soon as the case is called, and we will promote you over to a panelist position. The same is true if you're wishing to provide testimony during the public hearing. As the planner begins to give their presentation, please raise your hand and we'll know then that you're interested in speaking during public testimony, and we'll send you a promotion request. In both cases, whether the applicant or an individual wishing to provide testimony, you need to accept the promotion invitation to join us. And once you're in, you should be able to unmute yourself and share your video. We ask that you stay muted until you're called upon to speak. And then the chat feature that is available in Zoom is intended for questions related to technology and or where we're at on the agenda. It is not to be used for testimony on the merits of any project. And finally, in terms of testimony on cases, the persons in attendance in the chamber will be called upon first. And then we will move to folks on Zoom. And I believe that is all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and start with docket item C1, please.
All right, docket item C1 is case CPC 2023-00117. A request to approve a final plan in District MPD on about 12 acres located at Northeast Prather Road and Northeast Rock Creek Drive. Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, any questions from the commission regarding C1? So let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item C1, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
I have submitted sent a request to Melanie Klein to accept her promotion. She's joining right now.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Melanie Klein from Draw Architecture, and I'm the applicant on this project. I didn't have any further comments. Just wanted to let you know I was here if you had questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Joe?
That's it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item C1 with conditions.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item C1. Giovanni, we take roll call, please?
Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Prowl,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Hi.
Rojas,
Aye.
Sadowski. Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes in 7-0. Dr. Hill, can you take over this C2, please? There is a quorum on this one, by the way.
Sure thing.
Yeah, the quorum is Allender, Enders, Hill, and Rojas. Case number C2, case CPC 2023-00091. Request to approve a final plan in District MPD to construct two buildings, including retail sales and gasoline and fuel sales on 17 acres located at North Platte Purchase Drive and Northwest Fountain Hills Drive. Andrew Clark is the staff planner.
All right. Good
All right.
morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Vice Chair Hill, there has been progress since our last meeting. Today, we just needed to present some changes to the conditions that were posted in the staff report.
Okay, are you gonna review those conditions?
We're going to remove one condition and then revise a few other conditions, and I will share my screen so you can see.
Thank you.
Condition number 8, the applicant, this is stated in the current staff report, staff added pending all utility company requirements, that the utility boxes and other equipment is properly screened and behind the property and building. I just want to make sure that the applicant is okay with this language at this point.
Patricia Jensen with Ross Fritz Law Firm representing MD Management, and with me is Gary Hayes. And yes, we have agreed to the conditions that are contained on Andy's screen as far as the revisions. So we're fine with the revisions to that and removal of 26, 32, 33, and 34.
I know the voice. I can't see the screen. I think that's Patricia. Can you please
Yes.
state your name and address for the docket?
Sorry, Commissioner or Vice Chair Hill. My name is Patricia Jensen with the Rouse Fretz Law Firm with offices located at 4510 Bellevue. Here today on behalf of MD Management, and with me is Mr. Gary Hayes. And we're fine with the revised condition that says pending all utility requirements. And then the removal of conditions 26, 32, 33, and 34. I don't know, Andy, you might want to update them on what we came in agreement with compared in regards to the connection.
Okay, it is in the staff report that was posted. I do not have a slide, but staff and the applicant, Mr. Hayes and Ms. Jensen here and Kimley Horn. We all worked together on making sure that the plan not only complied with the code, but also with all existing city policies related to connecting private and public trails and enhancing mobility for all types of transportation. So Mr. Hayes has agreed to provide a connection from the trail stub in the southeast corner of the site, providing a staircase that will drop down and bring pedestrians in to the site and allow them to connect to the overall trail network through North Platte Purchase Drive. And staff appreciates the cooperation.
Awesome. Are there any questions from commissioners at this time?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we can now open it up. There's, Joe, is there anyone in the chambers or online that would like to give public comment regarding docket item C2?
Madam Chair, it appears no one in the chamber wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, awesome. We'll close public testimony. If there are no questions from the commissioners, I will take a motion.
Before I make the motion on the revised condition number 8, I believe in the staff report, it reads the same way that you had it presented on the
Right,
screen.
the
Okay.
staff report does, yes.
Okay, great. Then Chair Hill, I move to approve docket item C2, acknowledging the revised condition number 8 as written in the staff report and in the presentation, and removing conditions 26, 32, 33, and 34.
Is there a second?
Did we have, is there removal of, is there another removal of, is that all the removal of the conditions?
That covers it.
Okay, second.
Thank you. It's been moved and second. Jill, will you call the roll?
Allender,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Sadowski.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, she's not on the quorum. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys.
pass unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Enjoy your conference.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, let's go ahead and move then to our regular agenda items, beginning with those that we're looking to continue to a future date, please.
And I'm going to read these all off. I believe that the docket is correct in terms of the dates recommended or off docket if that's also recommended. So this should be able to be taken care of with one motion. Docket item 5.1 case CPC 2023-00074. Request to consider amending the Martin City Richards Gebauer area plan to change the recommended land use on property located at the southwest corner of Prospect Avenue and Missouri Highway 150. Docket item 5.2 case CPC 2023-00073. Request to approve a rezoning for the same area. Docket item 5.3 case CPC 2023-00072. Request to approve a preliminary plat for the same area. The applicant is requesting continuance to September 19th and staff recommends no fee for all three cases. Next one is docket item 6.1 case CPC 2023-00029. A request to approve a rezoning without plan from District R 7.5 to R 80 for 2 acres located at the northeast corner of Red Bridge Road and State Line Road. And this one, the applicant is requesting continuance off docket and staff recommends with fee. Companion case 6.2, case numbers SUP 2023-00031. Request to approve a special use permit at the same location for an entertainment venue. And in this one, the applicant is also requesting continuance off docket. Staff recommends with fee. Docket item number 7, case number SUP 2023-00020. Request to approve a special use permit in District R 2.5 for a school, Franklin Elementary School, to allow it to be used for offices on about 4 acres at 35th and Highland Avenue. Staff is recommending continuance The applicant is requesting continuance. Staff recommends without fee to September 5th. Docket item 8, case CPC 2023-00088. Request to approve a preliminary plat in District R80 on about 10 acres located south of East 79th between approximately 1,000 feet west of Little Blue Road. The applicant is requesting continuance. Staff recommends without fee to September 5th. Docket item 9, case CPC 2023-00092. A request to approve a rezoning without plan from District AGR to District M2-2 on 10 acres at the northeast corner of North Nevada Avenue, Northwest 136th Street. The applicant is requesting continuance to September 5th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 10, case CPC 2023-00099. Request to approve a project plan in District B4-2 to allow for heavy equipment sales and rental on about 5 acres at Northwest 112th Street and Interstate 29. The applicant is requesting continuance without fee or continuance to September 5th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 11, case number CPC 2023-00114. Request to approve a rezoning from District R 0.5 to District B1-1 to permit a short-term rental at 3244 Paseo Boulevard. The applicant is requesting continuance to September 5th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 12 is a companion case actually to the same one. So it's at the same location and it's for an area plan amendment. The applicant is requesting continuance to September 5th. Staff recommends without fee. And the last one is docket item 13, case CPC 2023-00085. A request to rezone from about 10 acres from District R 7.5 to R80 at Blue Ridge Boulevard and 29th Street. The applicant is requesting continuance to September 5th, September 19th, and staff recommends without fee.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners regarding continuance of docket items 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 6.1, 6.2, and 7 through 13? Okay, seeing none. Let's go ahead and open it up for any public comment. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding the continuance of those docket items that we just read, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, it appears no one in the chamber wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead then, and I'll take a motion, please. Oh, close public testimony first, and then I'll take a motion.
Chair Crow, I move to continue docket items 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 6.1, 6.2, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 as stated on the docket.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for continuance of all those docketed items. Giovanni, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Crown,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Sadowski,
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes in 6-0. All right, thank you for that. Let's move on to docket item number 1, please.
All right, docket item 1 is case CPC 2023-00118. Request to rezone about 2.5 acres from District B3-2 and R-7.5 to M1-5. Located at 11102 Hickman Mills Drive. Andrew Clark is the staff planner.
And if the applicant is here, they are welcome to join me up here. All right, good morning, Chairman Crow and fellow commissioners. I will share the screen. Yeah. Okay, before you is docket number 1. This is CD CPC 2023-118. This is a rezoning without plan at 11102 Hickman Mills Drive. The site is located in the 5th Council District in the southern portion of city limits. As you can see here, it is just east of 71, and it is located on the west side of Hickman Mills Drive. This slide is really important. It shows the variety of zoning districts along this corridor and generally in this entire planned area. A lot of these zoning districts lead to parcels that have split zoning. This parcel in particular is currently zoned R75 and B3-2. The applicant is requesting to rezone to M1-5 to allow for a construction office and being able to do outdoor warehousing for their large equipment. The site has been currently used as a construction office with some outdoor warehousing since roughly 2007, 2008. The Hickman Mills area plan was recently updated and adopted again in 2019. And as you can see here, the recommendation made by the community was for a mixed use community. And that recommendation correlates to a B2 zoning category. Because of this area plan recommendation, that was the basis for staff's recommendation of denial, with the area plan being adopted so recently. And the criteria for a rezoning, I just have to follow exactly what the code is asking us to review. And that is why we are here today with the staff recommendation of a denial. The site is adequately served by public facilities and services. It is on an auto-oriented corridor, and there are a mixture of zoning districts. This corridor is primarily a B3-2, but the community wanted more of a down zoning to avoid auto storage and other undesirable uses that they feel are concentrated within their community. And then letter H here, I just tried to be to the point. A denial of this application, could result in a vacant building. The applicant is in the process of trying to purchase this property. And when they reached out to staff, we stated that they would need to rezone to allow for the expansion of the outdoor warehousing. The other reason why the area plan recommends a lower zoning designation as the B2 is in the M1, whenever we rezone, it runs with the land in perpetuity. So if this applicant is to leave the area or something happens, markets change, where you see the letter P, these are uses that would be permitted by right with no development management review. So a gas station would be able to go in by right. Any type of motor vehicle repair would be allowed to go in. It does open up the door for some limited manufacturing. Other high intensity uses are primarily regulated by special use permits. I just wanted to show you what uses this could open the door up to.
Is self-storage part of that as well?
Indoor.
Self-storage, okay.
Yep. The applicant, I will acknowledge, has been great to work with under the circumstances of me doing my job and following the code. But it does not meet the criteria for a rezoning. And staff's recommendation is a denial in this case. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions from the commission?
Are there B zoning districts that allow for equipment storage with a special use permit?
Unfortunately, no. And I've repeated myself multiple times with the applicant that there is no other tool in the zoning code besides rezoning to the M1. And that is the conflict we have with the area plan. The only other option would be to rezone to a B4, but they would have to have all of their equipment inside. So you can't imagine the cost of building such a structure. And this is highway excavation or road excavation equipment. It's large equipment.
Highway construction equipment.
right? So it'd be cost prohibitive to put all of that inside.
Yeah, that's my question too. No other tool than a rezone is what you're saying. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is not today.
And I would add to an open district, as you guys know, we have the UR zoning and an MPD zoning available. But in order to be eligible for that, you have to be a blighted property, so that eliminates that possibility for this particular case. And then for MPD, you have to meet you're supposed to meet one of 4 different eligibility criteria. Natural resource preservation, mixed uses are among them, and this doesn't qualify under that either. So what many communities have is like a third category of a planned district where you can rezone to allow only that use, and it comes with a plan, just like we have with MPD and UR, but it doesn't have the strings attached in terms of eligibility criteria, or at least the same ones. We don't have that tool in our ordinance, so the only option we have is to look at rezoning to an open district.
So I read in the staff report that you wanted to continue discussions. Then what is in your mind the resolution? Where would you go from a discussion perspective?
From what Joe or Mr. Rexwinkle just discussed in the old zoning code, chapter 80, that was the law or the code until 2011. Staff had this tool. That was before Joe worked here, before I worked here. We don't know why council removed that tool, but this is a perfect example of how important that tool is.
So what would be the continued discuss? I'm just trying to get to my mind. What, if you continue to the discussion, what in your mind is the resolution?
I think the resolution is simply to add that option that I was just describing to the ordinance. That
Okay.
would be a text amendment. And it would come back to this group for your recommendation. Ultimately, the council would have to approve that to add it to the city zoning code.
What would be the time frame to do that, Joe?
It depends on whether there needs to be stakeholders identified and public engagement. And if that is the case, then it could take 6 months. But if it's something that we simply, in my mind, it doesn't really need to have that. I think the stakeholders are, in this case, the planning commission and the city council, because all you're doing is putting something in the ordinance that's an option. You're not applying it to any particular property.
Right.
So if that's the approach that everyone agrees with, then you could have something back before this commission within a month and a half, probably.
Just a curiosity, a denial by this body and it goes through the city planning or to the council. Can they make an adjustment at that time before they all meet?
They would I think they would need to, if they're going to pursue a new zoning district, I think that would need to be a new application, just for clarity, because it doesn't exist today.
Yeah, or waiver
Yeah.
or something of that nature.
Right.
I don't know. Okay. Any other questions from the commission for the city staff? So let's go ahead and welcome the applicant then. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Spitznagel. I'm an attorney for the law firm Doug and Chadwick, Dorr and Curlbaum, 9101 West 110th Street in Overland Park. I have with me today representatives for the applicant, which is Hall Equipment and Rental LLC. I have next to me, Lindy Byer. She's a real estate agent for the applicant, and also attending is Robert Taylor. He's a representative and owner of the applicant. We also have our proposed tenant with us, Kathy Phillips of Realm Construction. And I'll talk more about her later. Thank you for your time this morning. On behalf of the applicant, we really appreciate your consideration of this, and thank you to city staff, in particular Andy Clark, for his time on this application. As Mr. Clark mentioned, our client Hall Equipment is under contract to purchase this property and is applying to rezone from B32 existing the existing B32 zoning and R75 zoning to M15 manufacturing. What we're essentially trying to do here is continue the same use that's been existing on this site since at least 2008. Per staff's direction, we're here today to have the zoning reflect what's occurring on that site, which is outdoor storage, a construction office. Mr. Clark mentioned we're seeking to expand the use. That's one point I'll take issue with. What we're trying to do is build a 60 by 80 garage in behind the office to try to move indoors some of the equipment that's being stored outside currently. The garage is not going to be visible from the road. I'll show pictures, elevations of that soon. The property sits, if you drive by it on Hickman Mills Drive, the property sits at an elevation. So there is some natural screening, berming going on there. Andy, if you would, please pull up. Do you have the site plan available?
Not included, but I will keep going and I will
Sure.
pull it up.
This is in your packets as well, commissioners, but Hall Equipment plans to install a screen fence. Currently, that doesn't exist. There will be a screen fence, landscaping as well per the city requirements, and a new security fence. As I mentioned, the garage building, the request for rezoning really comes from the request for the garage. And we think that at the end of the day improves the site because, as I said, it moves some of the outdoor storage indoors. We understand also that the master plan calls for mixed use, but we believe our proposed use is consistent with what's happening in the neighborhood, which is primarily a commercial industrial district. It contains several automobile repair shops, automobile sale shops. And frankly, we don't think our proposed use would slow down or impede if there is demand for mixed use development in this neighborhood. We don't think we would impede that in any way. And Mr. Clark has on the screen here our renderings. This is view number 1 from Hickman Mills Drive, as you see on the existing view. If you could scroll up just a little bit. There you go. This is what you see today. You can see the outdoor storage equipment there. And if this picture shows a little bit, but the site is elevated somewhat. And if you could scroll down, Mr. Clark, that'd be great. This is what we plan to install, the fencing and the landscaping. And there's one more view, Mr. Clark, on the next page. This is another view and the proposed view here. The garage that I mentioned previously is going to be behind the office building you see today. So as you see, completely screened from the street. Our current plan is to rent the building to a locally owned construction company called Realm Construction. Realm is a successful construction company specializing in concrete construction. Realm is a woman-owned business, and its owner, Kathy Phillips, is a Kansas City, Missouri resident. Realm is currently located in Blue Springs, but is hoping to relocate to Kansas City. They do a lot of work on government contracts, including with the city of Kansas City. Some of their past projects include the Buck O'Neill Bridge, or ongoing projects, I should say, the KC streetcar and the KC water services plant. We, the applicant and our tenant, value being a good neighbors. So for that reason, we reached out to several of the neighborhood organizations, even though not technically required to do so. We held meetings with those folks, and we're proud to receive letters of support from the Ruskin Heights Homes Association, the Southern Communities Coalition, our neighbor to the south, Salis Auto Repair, and our neighbor to the north, Staco Electric Construction Company, which shares the same zoning classification that we're seeking today. That's all I have, but in sum, happy to answer questions. We're excited to be a part of this community and bring a local thriving small business to this neighborhood. Happy to answer questions. And also, as I mentioned, our representatives are here as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicant? Okay. All right, with that, let's open it up for public testimony.
Sorry, I do have one.
Okay,
If we had to do the resolution as just discussed by the staff, what would a 6-month delay mean to the project?
That would likely, I'd need to talk to the client, but they are under contract to purchase this property. That would likely undermine and probably cause, we probably wouldn't have time under the contract to do that. But before making that definitive representation, I'd probably need to talk to them, but that's my understanding.
Okay, great, thanks.
any others? All right, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony then. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 1, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Christian Montez and I am here with the owner. We are the tenants and the owners of the property north. We are 11100 Hickman Mills Drive. We have a question if this is approved and the zone is changed. We currently own a taco truck and we down the road are planning to use that building as either a bar or a restaurant. If this zoning is approved, would that limit us or would we not be able to do that restaurant due to the new zoning? That's my question. I don't know if anyone could answer that or.
That's a great question. It would have no impact on that proposed use.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So that was our only main concern. Other than that, we would support it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else, Joe?
No one on Teams has raised their hand.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could I make public comment?
Yeah, if you don't mind coming up. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Darrell Curls, City Councilman, 5th District at large. This project is in my district. I've met with the owners, I guess the proposed people who are looking at this project. I've met with city staff in regards to the options of zoning. We have tried to come up with something because I believe that these individuals would be good neighbors in Hickman Mills and in our community, and we would love to see them join our community. However, I know that city planning has criteria that they go by. I would like to see if there's some other option that we could entertain in regards to zoning for this particular area. As it has been stated, the occupant that's on the property now is doing the same exact thing that these individuals would want to do. I don't know how the zoning got mixed up over the years, but that's something that probably should be corrected at some point in time. I don't know if that now is the time to do that or not, but I rise and stand in support of this project. I stand in support of looking at options of rezoning this so that they can have the opportunity to come into our community. Thank you.
You.
And I do have one question for Ms. Baxter. a rezoning without plan. The applicant stated early on, they said you can put on a condition if you were to pass this planned district in the future, or if council was, that they would be willing to rezone into that planned district to be transparent with the city that this is the only use that is proposed here. Is council able to, or the city plan commission able to add that condition if such zoning district were to be established?
Well, I think a better solution that we've used in the past, if the city truly wants to limit the uses here, would be to have the property owner file a deed restriction. That's what I'd recommend if you want to do that, rather than adding a condition like that. And, I mean, technically, the city council person has the authority to introduce an ordinance to rezone property if they wanted to do that at a later date.
Sarah,
It doesn't have to be filed by the applicant.
can you repeat that again? Sorry. Can you repeat?
Sure, the recommendation about the deed restriction or the issue about rezoning.
The first one.
Okay, so there's been a few cases where the city has required the property owner to file a deed restriction saying that, even though these particular uses are allowed in this zoning district, we're not going to implement those uses. We're going to restrict ourselves to this particular use. And so we did that, for example, with McGonagall's when they sold to Fairway, and there was a lot of concern about certain uses that would be allowed.
Yep.
They filed a deed restriction limiting themselves to certain uses. And so that would be the best way if you truly wanted to restrict some of the uses that would be allowed.
So what's the timeline? Would they go and do that and we continue the case, or how would we, what order in which we would?
Well, you could move it forward to council and then council could hold it. Or I guess you could have a condition that says that it won't be introduced to council until a deed restriction is agreed upon between the city and the property owner.
Okay.
And I realize you might need to discuss this with your client. I don't know if anybody else has mentioned this option to you, but.
It hasn't been discussed before, but I understand the logic behind it. I would need to talk to them about it and then work with city staff to confirm what sorts of uses are going to be restricted. But it is our intent to do the things we've told you today we're doing, which is continue the same uses that have been existing.
Yep, and the way our process works now on timing is the ordinance requests would be processed and introduced next Thursday at full council, and then it would be heard on the 30th of August. So that would give the applicant time to work with their team and the city to ensure that by the time it goes to council, this deed restriction could be settled. But most importantly, I hope this just shows you the need that our zoning code does not have a flexible tool here.
Sir, can you remind me again, is that you approve the rezoning with the condition that you add a deed restriction, or you don't approve the rezoning?
You mean okay, so the question
So-
is if the commission wants to condition this on a deed restriction being filed. Yes, I think I would phrase it as approving the rezoning with the condition that the applicant file a deed restriction.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're still open for public testimony. Anybody else, Joe?
No, there's no one in the chamber and no one on Zoom with the raised hand.
Okay, so we'll close public testimony then. So you've heard some of the discussion about a rezone with a deed restriction, and that's something you'd be happy to entertain on this project?
I think that the next few weeks, we'll give a couple weeks before the city council meeting can give us time to work with Mr. Clark on that and the city staff. I think the details will be important here on what uses we are restricting. We want to align with everybody about the intent of it, while at the same time not prohibiting us from doing things that would be contemplated before or allowed before.
Yeah, Mr. Clark is a very nice guy and he'll work with
Yeah.
you on all of those items. So, yeah, I think they could be worked out. Okay, thank you. And
I like the solution. I don't want to hold, if we can, I want to bring small business in and so forth. So
So I just want to. I'm okay with the deed restriction. I think it should be for like uses or similar uses. I think the cautionary tale with manufacturing zoning is the one by my house where it's right in Waldo, right along the trolley trail. Great location, was industrial manufacturing zoning, had kind of a use no one really knew about. But then now, by right, they were able to build a 4-story self-storage unit right next to homes, and it's just a poor land use. And we didn't have any choice because it was by right. And so I think what we're worried, or what I'm worried about, is just protecting that massive investments go in that probably shouldn't go in. I mean, this is in a neighborhood. It is on a more industrial corridor, but that there's also like opportunities in the future for redevelopment. And so I just wanted us to be sure that it's for like uses. It can't be flipped to kind of make more intensive uses in the manufacturing zoning. So that's my only hesitation, because I think we see kind of what we saw the wide range of uses that it could be. And some of those are pretty permanent solutions. So I just want us to be cautious of it. I'd like us to look at manufacturing zoning, especially adjacent to residential or close to residential. So my recommendation would be to approve with the deed restriction of similar or like uses. And I don't know if that's illegally, but the general gist of it. So that'd be my few comments on this.
Commissioner Baker, doesn't the deed restriction then limit that issue with what you just talked about on the self-storage?
Yeah, I think that to give Commissioner Baker comfort, adding that to the condition in the way that staff works out the details would be sufficient.
Yeah, but I'm worried about just because I want to be respectful of their future uses as well, or like adjustments within the kind of zoning that they do have. Given the wide range, like what if they want to add a second garage, or maybe switch the use to light manufacturing, we've had the breweries come in and do light manufacturing. That feels like an appropriate use, but not necessarily a massive self-storage unit or composting center, or like there's kind of this whole menu of options. So,
And I don't know the legal, but if you did a deed restriction and they wanted to change something on that, they would have to come back.
Yeah. So, okay, I just want us to be careful with manufacturers on near neighborhoods.
sounds like you need to make a motion then.
Sure. Probably the most skeptical here. I'll make the motion to move to approve docket item 1, adding the condition to work with to add a deed restriction for the designated use and similar uses. That work?
Sure. I mean, yes, that'll work.
Second,
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of the rezoning with the condition added to put in a deed restriction on the property for similar uses down the road. Giovanni, can you take a roll call on the motion?
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Proud.
Aye.
Enders.
aye.
Rojas.
Aye.
Sadowski.
Aye.
Looks like that motion passes 6-0. Thank you for bringing it in and good luck with the project.
Thank you, you all.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you working with us on the deed restriction too. Okay, let's move to docket item number 2, please.
Then we'll go over the uses.
All right, docket item 2 is case CPC 2023-00027. A request to approve an amendment to a previously approved plan in District UR to allow for an event space on 9 acres at 63rd Street and Bushman Drive. Andrew Clark is the staff there.
Okay, so before you now will be docket number 2, and I will share my screen once again. And this is case CDCPC 2023-27. This is a rezoning to UR. And it is not the Kansas City International Academy campus, but this is the industrial event space at 1670 East 63rd Street. The site is located just north of 63rd Street and east of Paseo. It is the large shopping center highlighted here, and the specific building for this application is what used to be the bank. The applicant is proposing a indoor event space. And the original UR plan was so specific that this building would only be a bank, that by changing the use, that triggered a major amendment, which required the applicant to work or reach out to the Blue Hills Neighborhood Association and all property owners within 300 feet. Staff just wanted to make sure that those who live right around here were okay with an event space going in. As you can see here, here's a view looking north from 63rd Street. Here is the updated site plan that the applicant submitted to staff. And most importantly, they updated the use table, showing that it did change from a financial institution to an indoor event space. The applicant does have plenty of parking, as their events are usually at different hours than the other shops in this center. So there is ample parking based on what their occupancy limits are. And staff does recommend approval with conditions for this project. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners regarding docket item number 2?
And it currently isn't used as an event space. It's
They started doing work
Okay.
and then realized throughout the permit process that they needed entitlement.
oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
but
I've seen the sign up. for
Yes,
one,
they've been
so-
great to work with.
Okay.
We're just getting them through, and they're still working with the fire department on fire suppression.
Okay.
Yeah, any other questions? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant. Is the applicant available for this project?
Possibly a Claude Peterson.
I don't see anyone by that name.
Okay.
Thomas Eatman.
Yes, that is the architect.
Okay, I'm promoting Thomas.
Mr. Clark, who'd you say the applicant was? I'm sorry.
He's being promoted right now.
Okay,
Thomas Eatman represents the
okay.
applicant.
That's why he's building new curbs.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Eatman. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Good. Mind stating the name and address for the record and tell us a little bit about your project, please.
Thomas Eatman, architect, with Builders by Design, located at 4001 Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, Suite 230, Kansas City, Missouri, 64130. Working with the applicant, they, as I believe Andy mentioned a little earlier, has started work on a conversion of that property to become an event space from what was a bank prior. And when the authorities became aware of what was going on there, they interceded, and he realized that he needed an architect to kind of help him navigate this planning process to get the building qualified for what his preferred use was going to be. So that's when he and I got together. We reached out to city staff, particularly to Andy, and had some conversations with the development assistant team, and figured out the way that we should amend the current area plan or early renewal plan. And that's what's before you, or what he just presented, such that it could accommodate the new use. So without repeating anything more than what Andy's already presented, that's the plan.
Okay. Any questions from the commission to the applicant? I'm sorry, I didn't really hear you. Are you doing improvements to the building itself?
They have done some cosmetic improvements. They've primarily they've done a lot of finish work inside.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions from the commission to the applicant? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. There's somebody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 2. Please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, I see no one in the audience wishing to speak, and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Eastman?
The applicant did meet with the neighborhood on several occasions, and they've been very receptive to his operation opening there. They see it as a need, and one that is compatible with what the neighborhood needs.
All right, very good. Thank you. This time we'll close testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item 2 with conditions.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 2 with conditions stated. Giovanni, can you take roll call, please?
Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Sadowski. Aye.
All right, looks like the motion passes 6-0. Thanks for bringing it in and good luck as you move forward.
Thank you.
All right.
Does staff know if there's a way that we can increase volume for virtual people?
I'm looking at our new technology engineer over here.
Was that discussed previously or something, or?
No, I did not do the training on our new technology here.
I'd like to know if if people that participating virtually can't hear well.
Well,
Do we think they can't?
I wanted to hear that person better or
Oh,
louder.
gotcha,
That was my question.
Yeah, so no.
Okay, we can look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
See what.
Glad it
needs to be
wasn't
done.
just me. I'm a deaf guy.
No, I mean, I got the gist of it, but you know.
Okay, I think we're ready to move to docket item number 3, and I need to recuse from this one. So Commissioner Enders is going to take over. Hey, you guys are welcome to come up if you like.
All right, docket item 3 is case number CPC 2023-00096. Request to approve a development plan for a 13-unit townhouse development on about half an acre at the southeast corner of Locust and 19th Street. Marisa Chambi is the staff planner.
Good morning. I will share my screen. All right. So as Mr. Rex Winkle just mentioned, this is CPC 2023-00096 for a residential development plan at 1901 Locust Street. Here is the location of the site in relation to the rest of the city. It's located in the greater downtown area. The applicant is seeking approval of a residential development plan for 13 units with a drive aisle down the middle. Each unit has a garage that can accommodate 2 vehicles, which would create 26 parking spaces. And here is the location of the property, and this kind of development is allowed by right in the zoning district that it is found in. However, there's more than one building on it, so that's why you're seeing it as a development plan. And here's just an aerial showing the surrounding areas. The Mill House development is to the west, and some more residential to the south, and some vacant lots to the north and east. Here's the general layout of the plan. You can see the drive aisle down the middle. Locust Street was previously vacated, and that is landscaped already for the Mill House development. The applicant is also proposing a trail along the eastern side of the property in order to allow each unit to have access, pedestrian access to the sidewalks. And then this is the landscape plan that is in compliance with the zoning and development code. And I do want to point out there's 2 units along the southern portion of the eastern building. And if you can see my mouse, I'm just kind of circling around them. Those are lower in height than the remaining units. The applicant is currently working with the fire department to ensure that the structures meet the requirements for aerial access. The units, all of the units in the on the western side, and the ones to the north of the eastern building are all 43 feet in height. And then these 2 southern units are 29 feet and 11.5 inches. They are proposing, and I'll show you some renderings here in a minute, for those 2 southernmost units. They're proposing a roof deck with railing, and that's what they're working with the fire department to get approval for. City staff and the fire department agree that those changes won't cause a major amendment. And so we are comfortable with them moving forward to building permit once they meet that condition. Here are some renderings of the property. As you can see, there's a lot of stucco being used throughout the development. As I mentioned, each unit has its access from the trail or the sidewalk. This particular elevation shows the sides that will be facing the residential building to the south. And staff is asking that this be revised. No one wants to look at a blank wall out of a window. And then this is the view from 19th Street. And in order to improve the walkability of the area, we're also asking that these elevations be improved to better match what's currently around with the other buildings along 19th Street, and to promote just a better safety feel. And as you can see, here's the property, and then that residential building to the south. And over here, you can see the Mill House development to the west. And staff is recommending approval with conditions, and I can answer any questions if you have them.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff?
Are they coordinating with the bike lane there to not impede it?
Yes.
Yeah, we've been in contact with, I'm Lance Carlton with UCB Properties, a co-owner with Lee Berman. Yes, we've been working with all the various departments, including the bike folks and, any work that's done in the street, things will be put back together. And,
Or mobility lanes, as we now call them.
Mobility.
That's right.
Any other questions for city staff?
And I might have missed it, the elevation changes, are those conditions in the staff report? Correct. Okay.
I have one question. How do you contemplate what the east setback and east elevation should be based upon not knowing what will happen with the vacant property to the east? So that does have more of a setback. In theory, they could be looking at a building that's pretty close, or how close could someone develop on the property to the east?
So this is all M1-5. If it's next to a residential zoning district, they have a specific setback, but since it's not in that residential zoning district, I believe there's no setback.
And what is the distance between the property line and those front doors that we're looking at?
I can't remember how wide that trail is. I can. Sorry, 20 feet.
it's close to 20 feet. If, Adam, our civil engineer might know who's on the call as well.
Okay.
But I know there's a 10-foot easement, and then we're in addition to that. And the easements for utilities on the east side.
Thanks. Okay, if there are,
I just want to point out, this is another M15 zoning, so you see the breadth of the uses that can go into manufacturing.
all right, if there are no more questions, we'll go to the applicant's presentation.
Great. My name is Lance Carlton. I'm with UCB Properties. I'm a part owner of the project that's being proposed here today. UCB, and I'll let Lee Berman introduce himself quickly, but just a quick overview. UCB Properties has been developing in Kansas City.
Sorry to interrupt. If you don't mind, could you pull the mic towards you
Oh,
just in
sorry.
case it's harder for people to hear who are virtual? Thanks.
Sure. Is that better? Okay. My name is Lance Carlton. I'm with UCB Properties. We've been developing as UCB Properties for the last 11 years in Kansas City. And our focus has been in smaller urban sites like this. Sites where I'll call it the bigger developers can't get the density and the scale, size and scale that they need. And we're a small outfit. It's 3 of us that work, and we're able to work on these smaller projects and smaller sites. And we're really committed to these urban core neighborhoods. We've done a lot of work in Longfellow, Beacon Hill, along 63rd, along Troost, and along Paseo as well. So we're committed to infilling a lot of these empty lots that we see around the city. This is a project that we're thrilled about, working in the East Crossroads. It is unique in the sense that it's for sale product. So there's been not much recently in the last 10 years that's new construction that's for sale. And these will be for sale as townhomes. And what we like about them is that it is townhomes. It's not single family, which wouldn't be appropriate here, but it's also not an apartment building. And I think the apartment dwellers in Kansas City have proven there are people that want to live downtown, and we want to be able to provide that option for them to live and own downtown. So we think this is a great opportunity for them to do that. The scale of the project, I know it sounds townhomes from a scale perspective are sometimes smaller. These are pretty prominent. We've had to work with the fire department because of how tall they are, but we want them to blend in with the neighborhood. And so we've got a 4-story building to the south of us and a 5-story building to the west of us that Millhouse developed. And our project is 3.5 to 4 stories. So as you can see from the renderings earlier, it really does blend in. Before I continue, that's us. That's the project. I'll let Lee introduce himself. Sorry.
You were on a roll. My name is Lee Berman. I'm working with Lance on this project and a couple of others. Same passion. Half-acre sites are underutilized in the city, particularly for this project. And we're really excited. I think the date of the last for sale product built is over a decade. And the new product, we haven't really been able to identify where it was. So a non-abated for sale product in the Crossroads, we think is a really exciting thing. And we have a lot of half-acre sites. And so we're excited to try to prove this one out.
I guess there are a couple things in here that we wanted to bring up. Everyone's so busy. We've had challenges trying to communicate just because people are busy. And so we wanted to bring up some conditions today that we saw that might be in here and overlooked, and wanted to talk about those if we have a moment. The first one is the proposed, as she's talked about, the elevations and working on adding fenestrations and stucco and brick. We want to make sure that we have the opportunity to work with Larissa, but also have this condition removed if we come to an agreement. And I think, is that what happens if we come to, does this condition get removed?
Here.
So the condition number 6, we're happy to work with Larissa on the condition. But if we come to an agreement, does that condition get removed when it goes to council?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
What was the other ones we wanted to talk about? 9. Oh, another one that's in here is number 23, the existing full flow fire meter and backflow shall be relocated to the west side of Locust on East 19th Street. As with the fire department, the water department, we had extensive discussions, and this was a item that was brought up in a meeting a couple weeks ago that was agreed upon, that if we did certain things, this would be removed. And we're moving down that path to one of the things that they required is that we create a public easement, which is in here on the north side of the property. And with that, this condition is supposed to be removed. I don't know if the folks from the water department are on the call and maybe want to comment. I don't know if this was an oversight or the rationale that might be behind it, but that was a condition we wanted to make sure that we talked about today, because it has a strong impact on the project. And I don't know if.
Great, thanks.
I think
Travis.
Travis is on.
There he is.
Yeah, this is Travis Kiefer with Casey Water. And I believe that the condition should read that additional right of way was going to be dedicated along 19th Street. And if that was the case, then that condition could be removed.
Yeah, we agree with that.
That was 23.
That was 23. So if the additional right of way that he mentioned is added, then this line 23 would be removed.
Okay, so I guess the question is, Larissa, do we have the right of way in the conditions? Right.
I think we'll need to add
They're
that.
in there.
there.
Under line
13.
Mhm.
Wait,
it says where's the 7.5 feet?
or 11.
Oh, yeah, line 30, well, what is 31 today? It says the developer must dedicate an additional 7.5 feet of right of way, along the south side of East 19th Street to accommodate the water service line from the previous 19th and Oak development into the public right of way.
Travis, were you able to hear that or see condition number 31? And if so, does that satisfy removal of condition 23?
Yes, as long as that additional right of way covers that cabinet that's there.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, as long as the width of the right of way covers the structure that's out there, the structure that was in the previous condition that indicated need to be relocated. As long as the right of way covers that, then that the condition that required the structure to be moved over to Locust can be removed then.
Larissa, do you feel good about that based upon this latest? Okay,
Correct, yeah.
thanks, Travis. All right, applicant, do you have anything else?
1 minute. All right.
Well, we're going to the next one. I'd like to thank Travis and Luke for working with us on that condition. That's a complicated one in the old city, and it was great.
That is it for now. We're excited about the project. We're excited we've been able to work with staff and continue to work with staff on the elevations and the material for the building. But we're thrilled to bring a new product to Kansas City, and hopefully it sells. It's a big risk. It really is.
Great, thank you. With that, we'll open it up to public testimony.
Can we ask questions of the developer?
Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry. Are there any
Um,
questions?
I know you're in the combined sewer. Can you just give me an idea of how you're doing on-site stormwater management?
Sure, the project, we have to retain, and Adam DeGonia, who's on the call, who's our civil engineer, can better elaborate, but from a high level, we're retaining the first 1.5 inches of rainwater on site, sort of in that private drive, and then it has to release out, I think it's over 48 or 72 hours into that combined sewer. And we are actually, as part of the condition, improving on the east side. There's a current utility easement that has a sewer line in it. And we are actually upsizing that line to a 12-inch water, sewer, and storm line. So both our water and sewer and storm water will go into that new upsized line connecting into 19th Street.
And does it retain the 1.5 inches?
Yeah, what's in the stormwater detention that's underneath the driveway will retain that first 1.5 inches for, I think it's 48 hours or 72 hours with the release.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions from commissioners to the applicant?
Did I see solar panels on here? There's that.
No solar panels.
No solar panels.
No, we have on the top floor, we have some, on the 4th floor, we have some living space with some deck space.
Okay.
A homeowner, very well, it's a small roof on the 4th floor, but could utilize that smaller roof for solar panels, but no solar panels.
Okay, I'm just asking because you get a good discount these days, so.
Right.
Tax credits.
Do you happen to know who owns the parcel to the east, and how has your design been impacted by the potential of what could happen to the east?
Sure. Yes, it's owned by Matt Abbott. I don't know what LLC it is. We've had discussions with Matt. Right now, our understanding, and I don't know if he's on the line, I don't think he is, but our understanding is that his intent is to keep it as parking for his Abbott, what's it called?
The Abbott Event Hall.
The Abbott Event Hall. So right now, it's staying as parking. We've contemplated those east-facing units quite a bit, and having those front doors face that is concerning, right? But we're going to be working with landscaping to make sure we're screening properly, putting in possibly fences to screen as well. And if someone does build on that site, there is a utility easement. So with that easement in place, you really can't build structures over it. So by default of that easement, even though they probably have a 0 setback, they have to set back 10 feet because of that easement. So that does give us a little relief. But I'm from Boston, and so is Lee. Actually, I'm not from Boston, but I lived in Boston for 12 years. And this isn't uncommon to have in these urban settings, units sort of facing an area that's not ideal. But we're hopefully going to make up for it with some roof decks.
Yeah.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, we will open it up to public testimony.
Mr. Chair, no one in the chamber wishes to speak and no one on Zoom is raising their hand.
Great. Applicant, any other comments you want to add before we discuss it?
No, thank you.
Great,
for your time.
thanks. And then if there are any comments or
I just think I think it'll sell. I mean, there's no market, there's no housing that you can buy for sale downtown, really. There's some condos, but no one really wants to be in a condo these days with liability. And so I think you'll have no problem. And it's a good kind of use that mixes it up a little bit, which I think people are kind of yearning for, is maybe a little bit different than just another big apartment building. So I think it'll be fine. And this is a good project. So. I'm good.
if there aren't any other comments, would someone like to make the motion?
I move to approve docket item 3 with conditions removing number 23.
Second. Great. Docket item number 3 has been moved for approval and seconded. Could we please take roll call?
Calendar,
Aye.
Baker. Enders,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Sadowski. Aye.
Great, the project's been approved. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recommended.
Okay, Joe, let's go ahead and move into docket item number 4, please.
Okay, we have 3 companion cases, starting with 4.1, case CPC 2023-00057. Request to approve an area plan amendment on about 7 acres at the southwest corner of Bannister and Marion Park Drive to change the recommended land use from office/residential to mixed-use community. Docket item 4.2, case CPC 2023-00049. Request to approve a rezoning from District UR to District B2-2 at the same location. And docket item 4.3, case CPC 2023-00058. A request to approve an amendment to the previously approved UR plan to remove the area from the plan at the same location. Matthew Barnes is the staff planner.
Good morning, Matthew Barnes, City Planning and Development. Do I need to share my screen still with the new technology, or is it like?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
Although we don't see it yet.
okay. Probably need that.
There you go.
Okay. As stated, we have 3 companion cases for a rezoning, area plan amendment, and UR plan amendment for property located at the southwest corner of East Bannister Road and Marion Park Drive. The location of the site is down south, kind of near the Grandview Triangle. Here's a closer view of the site outlined in yellow. Within this, you can see the Cerner campus to the northeast, directly to the east of the yellow property is the existing Home Depot and South Patrol, just right underneath that. Here's a closer view. The property kind of down there is South Patrol, Home Depot to the north, that property outlined in yellow. Here's a view of the site looking south from East Bannister Road. You can see it's currently undeveloped. And here's that same site looking west from Marion Park Drive. The Hickman Mills Corridor UR plan is the controlling plan for this site. It calls for 2 to 4 buildings. It's that Project 2 area. The plan does not expressly state what uses are allowed, but overall has proposed land uses of office, retail, service, retail, hotel, warehousing, and light manufacturing. This plan was last modified in the year 2000. And there are no current incentives left in this UR plan. The area plan amendment, let me go back 1 second. The applicant is requesting to be removed from this UR plan, and we'll go into the zoning later, but be removed to rezone to a different district. And so this is to amend that plan. Applicant is also requesting an area plan amendment. The current land use is office/retail and open space buffer. You can see the blue line there is a regulated stream that goes through the site. It's technically kind of further to the west there. Our GIS is a little bit off, but with any development on this property, the open space buffer around that regulated stream would be preserved due to the requirements of regulated streams. The applicant is requesting that the plan be amended, the Hickman Mills area plan be amended to mixed use community, which that corresponds with the B2 district, which is what they're requesting to be rezoned to. This is the same zoning district as that Home Depot to the east and the other retail right there. This would just be expanding that into their property. Rezoning from the UR plan allows for a defined list of uses allowed for the site, which are compatible with adjacent properties. And as stated, this corresponds with the B2 zoning district for mixed use community in the Hickman Mills area plan. Just going over some of the zoning criteria. One of the criteria is conformance with adopted plans and planning policies. As stated, this does not conform with the Hickman Mills area plan. That's why their companion case is to amend that plan. The applicant is proposing to rezone to B2, which is at the same district as the adjacent properties, so it conforms to the zoning in nearby property. Physical character of the area in which the subject property is located. There's commercial in the area. Bannister has commercial, it's kind of a commercial corridor there. To the west, as stated, is the regulated stream, which will be preserved with any development on site. And again, these cases are for only rezoning and not for any proposed development. And the suitability of the subject property for land uses, which has been restricted under existing zoning. The existing zoning of the UR plan has restricted the property to just a set list of uses, which are kind of loose. This would allow for the uses to be defined by the zoning and development code.
Excuse me, could you just speak a little bit more into the mic?
Yeah.
I'm just having difficulty hearing you.
So the length of time that the property has been remained vacant as owned, to the best of our knowledge, the last building that was on it was in 1996 when a single family home was demolished. It has been vacant since. The extent for which approving the rezoning will detrimentally affect the nearby properties. It's not expected that the rezoning will affect the adjacent properties. Properties to the north and south are undeveloped, and to the east is the Cabinets to Go / the Home Depot. And there's no expected gain to the public health, safety, or welfare with the denial of this application. So just to go over some allowed uses under the B2, allowed by right, you have residential all type, small event venues, drive-through facilities, office and medical office, retail sales, light equipment sales, indoor and artisanal manufacturing. With a special use permit, you can have a medium-sized event venue. Gasoline and fuel cells are allowed with a special use permit, which is what the applicant with a future application that you'll see is proposing for the site. A car wash and outdoor light equipment sales. And again, that special use permit will be coming in, I believe in October or September. Larissa is the one currently handling that.
Can I ask a question? The artisan manufacturing, what does that mean?
It's more of our
Brewing.
Brewery,
Like under.
It's like a light manufacturing, but where you're not assembling products, you're making goods that are typically sold directly to a customer, to the end user. rather than something that's sold to a distributor and then to someone
it.
else, and
Okay.
then it goes to a retail outlet.
Smaller scale.
So this is basically to prep for a gasoline and fuel sales project.
Yes, this is to rezone the property to a use that has defined and allow us to use a special use permit to review that gas station.
So it's in a UR plan that is several decades old for the Marion Labs project when it was initiated a long time ago. And the plan always showed an office building for this site. Obviously that never materialized. So that's the only use permitted because this is a planned district. So we restricted the use only to the office building. The only way that the property owner can consider a different use is to amend that plan to add different uses for this property or to remove themselves from the plan and rezone the property, which is the applications before you today.
Okay.
And part of the rationale of going with the B2 zoning district is it's not and then as intense as like the B3 or 4, which would allow for the gas station outright. But would allow for uses more compatible with the adjacent in case the special use permit is denied. And that way we have a defined list of uses for that site.
Okay.
And with that, staff is recommending approval for all 3 applications.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the for city staff on this? Okay.
And yeah, we handed out some public testimony that we received over the weekend. Last Friday and Saturday was submitted after the staff reports had already been submitted. So, and that was what you see in front of you right now.
And most of this information sent is, can you kind of give us a little summary of what's been sent here for comments from the public?
Yeah, it mainly revolves around the use of the gas station, an objection to that. The photos there are of the site and of other stations that the applicant has done. Again, that will be reviewed further with a special use permit. But they are against the rezoning as well in area plan amendment.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions from commissioners to the city staff? Okay, let's welcome the applicant then, if the applicant is available.
It should be Doug Stone.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'm Doug Stone. I'm an attorney with Lewis Rice, and I'm here representing your applicant. I believe that our civil engineers from Phelps Engineering are also on with us, although I don't know that we'll have to get into that level of detail, but I believe they're available. I don't know if they've asked to be promoted or not, Joe, but in any event, we're here today, as was indicated, on the rezoning. Really, I don't have much to add. Here's John. I think that history has shown that the limitation of the existing UR plan didn't lead to the development of the site. I think the question before you today, I mean, you'll have another review process for special use permit. I'm not quite sure what the objection is to, and by the way, we weren't copied on anything that was sent to the commission, so I'll have to jump on Compass and see what that said. But in terms of the rezoning itself, really, just in the abstract, this is an appropriate B2 site. And had this not been a UR zone, I would submit to you it would already be zone B2. The Home Depot to the east is zone B2. And so I think really what we're doing at this stage is really asking that you remove the property from the UR, rezone it to a non-UR appropriate zone. And then from there, you'll entertain options to see this property get developed. And so with that, I would stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners to the applicant?
Well, I do with the new information we've got from
Okay.
the associations and so forth. Just trying to, Mr. Stone, could you just give us an idea of how much community outreach you've done? Because now we've got two
Sure.
different associations.
Certainly, Commissioner Allender. So I'm actually surprised that you got negative information. We had a meeting with Southern Communities Coalition, was very well attended. We, at that point, there were no indications at all as to problems either with the use or rezoning. There were some questions about whether truckers, with the extent of truck use and whether truckers would make their ways into the neighborhood. I think thought we had satisfied concerns that the whole point of this is the location between 71 and 435, the major double highway interchange corridor, very poorly served for the traveling community. And so we didn't come away from the neighborhood meeting with any sense of neighborhood opposition. In fact, and not to call people out, but in fact, the gist of the conversation was whether we would provide areas on site for Hickman Mills to put a kiosk to explain the history. And so it was a very cordial, two-way positive conversation. I'm a little surprised that you got something, so I'm going to need to look at that. But that doesn't really change the fact that that this particular piece of property has been overly restricted for 30 years, which has forced result in the property being undeveloped by anyone. So I think the first question you've got in front of you is, isn't this an appropriate time to make this property developable? And I submit the answer that's yes. And if we're going to do that, then is this the correct zoning district? And again, I would submit, based on what you have around you, yes. We still have to have a special use permit for a more complicated use. And so I personally think that you are promoting general development in the city by just approving the rezoning. And then somebody's going to have to come through if they have something that requires the kind of development that requires a site plan or development plan. They'll have to come through with that, or if they need a special use permit, they'll have to come through with that. But in the meantime, you're opening this property up to development where it hasn't been for 30 years.
And the development is a gas and fuel station, is that?
Well, there's an application pending for that, but truthfully, I mean, yes, that's what we're going to propose. But you could reject that. It would still be zoned B22, and somebody could come behind us and put in a retail store. So really, I think you need to look at these. I would respectfully suggest you look at these separately. And is this an appropriate rezoning? And we'll cross the bridge of a special use permit at a later date when there's been a full staff vetting and something presented both to the Plan Commission and the BZA. But really, what's in front of you now has nothing to do with a special use permit. It's just, should this property be zoned B22 instead of UR? No disrespect, but that's a no-brainer.
Can you talk a little bit about the ownership structure of the site, the UR, like within the UR plan, and then also the site that's being pulled out?
I have no idea who owns other property in the UR. I mean, this is a TIF plan that was associated with Marion Labs back in the late 90s. And, that area-wide project just didn't pan out. It's 20 years old. Nothing ever happened.
So can you talk about your property and how, because it was part of the UR zoning at some point, so I assume that it was part of a similar ownership structure as the rest of the UR, and now it is not, correct?
No, not necessarily. You can have an area-wide UR zone with 50 different owners.
Okay.
What the UR would have allowed Had there been a desire to assemble it in a single owner, you would have had the ability to use eminent domain under the TIF plan. But it's not uncommon for an undeveloped TIF plan like this to have fractured ownership. It just never took.
Okay, but there's no sort of master developer or anybody that sort of is an overarching at this point.
No.
It's so old that it, okay.
That's right. No, in fact, we connected, we also reached out, talk about outreach. We went to the TIF commission just to make sure we weren't stepping on anybody's toes. And, you know, and they kind of chuckled and said, well, if you build it soon enough, maybe we'll get 6 months worth of revenue before the TIF plan dies. So this is just an expiring TIF plan that just didn't build out the way people thought it would. And it's time to give up the ghost. I mean, the TIF plan is going to be over in another year. And so no, there's no developer that's going to come through and try to put a TIF project on a plan where there's only a year left. It's a dead TIF plan. And we confirmed that at the TIF commission.
I guess I'm just looking at what are the other options here, and it could be to update the UR plan to be more relevant to what needs to be built today.
Right, and that's
versus
what-
breaking it apart into.
Yeah, this is a big challenge with a lot of the older UR plans. I think the last time this plan was amended was in 1996, but I believe it predates that even. And in some cases, you do have a master developer who comes in and assembles properties and rezones it to UR. And then the project never takes off. And then everyone comes and buys properties. And then you have a bunch of individual owners subject to a plan that they never envisioned or developed themselves. In this case, I think it was like Mr. Stone described, where there was always a bunch of different property owners who, and it's also not uncommon when there's a major economic development project for additional properties to be included, because making them eligible for the incentives can be beneficial for the entire neighborhood because it stimulates additional investment. That could have been what happened here, but at any point, or at any rate, staff's point is that the zoning of the property has really outlived its usefulness for this particular property within the plan area because it never developed as intended. And that's the only thing it can do is office under the current zoning. And so we would agree with the argument he made that whether or not you all think a gas station is an appropriate use for the property, we do need to rezone the property because the current zoning is not working in anyone's favor.
And the intended use would come back to the planning commission.
The gas station would require a special use permit, so that will come back to you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission to the applicant? All right, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item 4.1, 4.2, or 4.3, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Stone?
No, I would just say that Matthew, I'll get with you afterwards, and could you send me a copy of what was submitted? I don't see it up on Compass. So I'll work with you after that. Thank you. No, nothing else. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So at this time, we'll close all testimony then and speak amongst the commission, or need to, I'll just take a motion, please.
Yep, I like taking this step and agree that there can be more discussion later. So with that, I'll move to approve docket items 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3.
Second.
Okay, just wanted to check to make sure. Do we have any conditions on any of the?
No conditions.
Okay, well, 0 conditions. Okay. All right, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket items 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. Giovanni, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Calendar.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Prout.
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Rojas.
Aye.
Sadowski. Aye.
All right, looks like the motion passes then 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Stone, and good luck as you move forward.
Thank you very much. We'll be back. Thank you very much.
Okay. With that, I think that takes us through all of our docketed items in record time for a planning commission meeting. Anything else to bring before the commission? I like the new AV look, but it's kind of hard to hear. The room is really echoey even more now than it was before. And it's really hard to hear folks online as well, so.
Yeah, I went back there because it used to be the case that it was echoey back in the audience area, and that's actually much better. So I could hear him enunciate clearly back there, and I think that was I couldn't make out every word that was said. The volume was fine, of course, but
Yeah,
so we'll talk with communications to see if there's some sort of setting that needs to be changed to make it a little bit easier to hear what people are actually saying in this area. We did turn up the volume. We do have control over that. So I don't know if you noticed, but after there was one individual that was hard to just hear what they were saying at all. And so we did adjust the volume up. That may have made it a little bit worse. We can maybe turn it down a bit, but we'll play around with it and see
okay.
if we can adjust it to
Yeah, and I'd also say, please encourage the applicants to come in and
Yeah.
present their case versus joining us remote. Just makes it
right.
easier to hear, better to hear and have that interaction. So. Motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Thank you.
Need like,
Everybody will be here next meeting, September something. September 5.